Hello, friends. Let's do some math together today. So we're going to play the game True-False Equations, which we've played together many times before, knowing that a good mathematician will be able to tell, looking at an equation, if it is true and makes sense, or if it is false and doesn't make sense, and be able to edit that equation to make it make sense if it is false. So today when we play True-False Equations, it's going to be just a little bit different. We're going to include a change where instead of just using numerals and symbols, we're also going to use 10 sticks and ones. So, knowing that you've worked with Miss Want and Miss Dunn already this week to understand how 10 sticks and leftovers or ones can come together to make new numbers, and using the structure of a 10 stick to help make your brain be more efficient, we're going to add that to the game True-False Equations. But the rules of the game are the same as always. We're going to look at the equation, we're going to read it, we're going to decide if it's true or false, and then if it's true, we're going to explain why, and if it's false, we're going to explain why and edit it to make it true. As always, it will help if we remember the three symbols. Today we're just going to use three. The three symbols that will be present in the equations for that day. This symbol is called what? That's right, the plus symbol, and it means and. This symbol is called what? That's right, the equal symbol, and it means is. And this symbol is called what? That's right, the does not equal symbol, and it means is not. So now, knowing that those are the symbols that might show up in today's equations, let's read the first one. Ready, set, read. 14 equals 10 stick and some leftovers. Let's count those leftovers or those ones. Ready, set, count. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 14 equals a 10 stick and 4 leftovers. Do you think that equation is true, that it makes sense, or is it false and it does not make sense? Take a moment, pause this video, think about that, and talk with someone near you or make a guess in your own brain about if this equation is true or false. Great. Now I know that this answer is true. And I know that this answer is true because if I have a 10 stick and 4 leftovers, that's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And that's the numeral that's over here. So 14 is in fact equal. It's the same thing as 1 10 stick and 4 leftovers. So this equation was true. Let's move on to the next. Okay, take a moment to look at the equation. Then we're going to read it together. Ready, set, read. 10 plus 2 equals a 10 stick and 2 leftovers, or 2 ones. Okay, 10 plus 2 equals a 10 stick and 2 ones. Take a moment and think if you think this equation is true or if you think this equation is false. If you're able, pause this video and again talk to someone near you or make a guess in your own brain about if this equation is true and why, or if this equation is false and why. Great. I know this equation is true. And I know it's true because 10 plus 2 is the same thing as a 10 group and 2 more. And one reason I knew that was because this 10 stick matches this numeral 10 right here. And these 2 leftovers are the same as this numeral 2 right here. So these numerals joining are the same thing as these leftovers joining. And I know that that's 12, 10, 11, 12. And that 10 plus 2 is also 12. So this equation was true. Let's move on to the next one. Take a second to look at the equation, then we're going to read it together. Ready, set, read. 10 plus 6 equals a 10 stick and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ones. Let's read that again. Ready, set, read. 10 plus 6 equals a 10 stick and 5 ones. You may not have needed to count those 5 ones because they're in the same shape that we see on a dice, so your brain might have known right away that was 5 ones, but I counted them, touch one, count one, that's another way. So take a moment if you think this equation is true, and why, or false, and why, and talk to somebody near you, or again, make a guess in your own brain. Great. Now I know this equation was false, and I know that because the 10 stick matches the numeral 10, and then what we have left on the numeral side of the equation is a 6, and then over here we have 5 ones. So 6 and 5 are not the same thing. So I know that this equation is false. I know that it doesn't make sense. So anytime we have a false equation, it's going to be our job to edit the equation to make it make sense. Think about that for a moment. Look at the equation. What could you edit? What could you change, knowing that you can edit this side with the numerals and the function, the plus sign, or you can edit the side with the 10 sticks and the leftover ones. what could you do to edit this equation to make it make sense? Okay, I've thought of two ways to edit this equation to make it make sense. And these are my two ways. The first way is I could change this numeral 6 into the numeral 5. If I did that, it would match, because 10 plus 5, then it would match. The 10 stick matches, and the 5 leftovers would match the numeral 5. And I know that 10 plus 5 is 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So then those two sides would match. 10 plus 5 equals 15. The second way I thought of to edit the equation to make it true is that I could add another 1 here. I have 5. If I add one more 1, that will make a group of 6. And then I have 10 plus 6 equals a 10 stick and 6 leftovers. That would match because it would be 16 on both sides. So either one of those ways would make sense to edit the equation and make it true. I think what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to add that leftover 1. Let's read the equation now. Ready, set, read. 10 plus 6 equals a 10 stick and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ones. So that's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 10 plus 6 equals 16. And now I know that this equation is true, that it makes sense. I've edited it. We have this many more, friends, 2 more. Here's the next one. Take a second to look at the equation and think if it's true or false. Let's go ahead and read it. Ready, set, read. A 10 stick and 1 more equals 11. Now I noticed this time that the 10 sticks and leftovers are first and the numerals second. That's okay. It doesn't matter which order the things go in as long as the math makes sense. So take a second to think, does this one make sense? Is it true? Or is it false and we need to edit it? Take a moment to pause the video and talk to someone near you. Great. We know this equation is true. And we know that because a 10 stick and 1 more is the same as 11. 10, 11. It's the same thing. So here's our last one, friends. Take a second to look at it, and then we're going to read the equation together. Ready, set, read. A 10 stick and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So a 10 stick and 7 ones equals 10 plus 3. Take a moment and think, is this equation true or is it false, and why? As always, pause the video and talk to someone near you or think in your own brain and make a guess whether this equation is true or if it's false. Great. Now we know that this equation is false, and we know that because there's something wrong with it. It doesn't make sense. Right now the two sides, they don't match. There's lots of different ways you could edit this equation to make it true. Remember that you could edit the side with the 10 sticks and the leftover ones. You could edit the side with the numerals. It's your choice. So your job today is to edit this equation to make it be true. And if you want to challenge yourself, you can show more than one way. You can edit it in more than one way to make it true. When you're done, send your work to your teacher. Can't wait to see what your math brains come up with.